Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're in high school right now, or maybe you just graduated, you're about to step into literally the biggest, most complicated multiplayer game on the planet, the real-world economy. And the crazy thing? Most people play it their entire lives without ever reading the manual. So today, we're going to treat the economy exactly like a video game, and I'm going to show you how to rig the rules back in your favor. Let's get into it. To understand why this stuff matters right out of the gate, picture this. Imagine you just had a seriously hard month, slaving away flipping burgers, and you do the math in your head, you are fully expecting this massive $2,000 paycheck. You check your phone, open up that banking app, and boom. Your account only got $1,456. I mean, it's a completely crushing feeling, right? So where on earth did that missing $500 go? Well, it went to the modern ritual of losing a chunk of your hard-earned cash to invisible forces. When you finally scroll down that pay stub, you're going to see federal income tax, state tax, Social Security, and Medicare. These forces take a cut before you ever even see a dime. They just expect you to accept it. But to be fair, they do fund everything from our massive highways to, making sure your favorite late-night taco truck isn't infested with rats. Plus, mandatory health and retirement savings. Okay, so to stop blindly losing your money and start actually leveling up, here's our game plan for today. 1. The reality of your paycheck. 2. How banks and interest work. 3. Surviving inflation and recessions. 4. Decoding credit scores. And 5. Investing value and time.
Section 1. The reality of your paycheck.
Let's dive straight into this first rule, specifically the completely weird and stressful guessing game that is filing your taxes. Honestly, it's a totally bizarre system where the government actually knows exactly what you owe, but they make you guess the number anyway. And if you guess wrong, you could be in some pretty serious trouble. Basically, taxes hit the money you make, the money you spend, and the money you invest. They're ultimately the super annoying but totally necessary cost of a functional society. You pay the government, and in return, society gets roads, schools, and safety regulations. Because while nobody likes giving up their burger-flipping money, countries with higher tax rates do generally have a much higher quality of life across the board.
Moving on to Section 2, How Banks and Interest Work.
When you hand your cash to a bank teller, I think most of us imagine it going into some giant, impenetrable vault, guarded by a dragon, just sitting there safely waiting for you. But honestly, that couldn't be further from the truth. Here's what actually happens. You deposit your hard-earned $1,000, but the bank, they only keep a tiny fraction of it on hand. They immediately turn around, take $900 of your money, and hand it to some guy who needs a loan to buy a jet ski. Seriously. This system is called fractional reserve banking. The bank is essentially acting as a middleman, a matchmaker, lending out your deposits so they can make money for themselves.
And because banks are lending your money out, we have to talk about interest. Interest is, simply put, the price tag for using cash, or the reward for being patient. Now, simple interest is just a flat fee, no big deal. But compound interest? Oh man, that's where things get crazy. Compound interest means every dollar you have creates little clones of itself, and then, guess what? Those clones start charging rent too?
The crucial thing to remember here is that when you are the one borrowing the money, like swiping a credit card, compound interest is absolutely your worst enemy. Imagine putting a $12 burrito on your credit card and then missing the payment. That interest earns interest, and suddenly, boom, that fast food meal becomes a $50 regret. In the world of loans, compound interest is this slow burn that turns tiny little mistakes into massive financial fires.
But on the flip side, if you're the one earning that compound interest by investing, let's say at a pretty standard 7% annual rate, it duplicates your money over time like a literal cheat code. $100 becomes $200, then $400. Interest is either your worst enemy or your absolute best unpaid employee. It entirely depends on who's collecting it.
All right, on to Section 3, Surviving Inflation and Recessions.
Now that we've got the basics down, we have to face the big boss battles of the economy. These are massive, overarching events that can totally derail your progress if you aren't paying attention. Let's look at inflation first. Why does a TV that used to be $500 suddenly cost $800? Well, it's just supply and demand. Imagine 2,000 people have cash burning a hole in their pockets, but the store, they only have 1,000 TVs. So the store raises the price. That's inflation. It's the slow, quiet erosion of what your money is actually worth. Your $5 bill still looks exactly the same, but over time, it buys you less gas, fewer instant noodles, just less of everything.
And then we have recessions. Think of the economy like a massive house party. Everyone is having a great time, dancing, spending cash, but eventually reality hits. Someone checks their bank account, The lights come on, and the DJ switches to sad lo-fi beats about corporate downsizing. Recessions happen when the economic cycle goes from a huge boom to a painful bust for at least 6 months. Jobs vanish, people stop buying stuff they don't need, and the entire economy hits a really painful but completely necessary reset button.
Section 4. The Rules of Credit Scores.
Okay, next up, we need to talk about the ultimate metric of your adult credibility. Because when you leave high school, you stop getting a report card with A's and B's. Instead, society hands you a totally new grade, and it's called your credit score. Basically, it's this shadowy algorithm of trust that ranges from 300 to 850. And the most important thing to wrap your head around is that this 3-digit number has nothing to do with how much money is in your checking account. Nope. It is strictly about how much lenders can trust you to pay them back. Drop below 580 and you are a walking red flag. Get over 750 and you are basically sparkling with financial credibility.
So how do they actually calculate it? Well, lenders look at a bunch of factors: your payment history, credit utilization, the age of your credit, your mix of credit types, and any new credit lines. And yeah, the game is totally rigged, but you can rig it right back by mastering these exact factors. The absolute #1 most important thing is payment history. If you simply make your required payments before that late period hits, you will practically win this part of the game.
Honestly, think of your credit score like a pet dog. If you ignore it, it's gonna poop all over your life and hand you a soul-crushing 27% interest rate on a used car. But if you feed it, take care of it, and just pay attention to it, someday it will literally help you buy a house. The crazy thing is, you can have 0 debt but still have a terrible score just because you have no history. You actually have to play the game to look good to lenders.
Finally, Section 5. Investing, Value, and Time.
All right, we've reached the winning strategy. This is where we learn how to use the completely invented social construct of money to generate real, lasting wealth. First, we have to realize that money and value, they're totally made up. Think about a shiny yellow rock, gold, versus just an average boring gray rock. The yellow rock isn't inherently doing anything better, but society has universally agreed to place a massive value on it. Whether it's a dollar bill, a gold bar, or a Gucci handbag, things only have value because we collectively believe they do. Providing massive perceived value to society is exactly how people like Steve Jobs or even highly specialized doctors get incredibly rich. They provide value, and people are just happy to trade their money for it. So, to combat inflation quietly stealing away your future, you've got to create value yourself. And you do this by using different investment vehicles to trade your money for more money, instead of just trading your hours for a burger-flipping paycheck. You can buy stocks, which are literally just tiny ownership slices of real companies. You can buy bonds, which are loans you make to governments or corporations. You can buy funds, which are just big diversified baskets of both. Or real estate, where someone else actually pays rent to live in a property that you own. This is how you make your money do the heavy lifting for you. But you've got to remember this golden rule. Wealth isn't built in days, it's built in decades. If you're young right now, you have the absolute greatest wealth-building asset on the planet: time. The top earners out there completely understand that time is the most valuable thing in the world. You really don't need to win the lottery to get rich. Just a little bit of money invested consistently over 20 or 30 years multiplies into 7 figures, all because of that compound interest cheat code we talked about earlier. Which brings us to our final question for today. You now know the rules. You know exactly how taxes drain your paycheck, how banks play with your money, how credit scores judge your trustworthiness, and how investing multiplies your wealth over time. The system is definitely set up a certain way, but now you've got the cheat code. So, how are you going to leverage the time you have right now to build value, outsmart those invisible forces, and rig this game completely in your favor?